Thank you. Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting of December 6th, 2023. The Wareham Conservation Commission will hold a meeting under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and/or the Town of Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Division 6, and any other applicable laws on Wednesday, December 6, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. All matters listed may involve a decision and possible vote. All hearings of the Wareham Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Wareham's Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. Before we start with the hearings, I just want to let you know that we've asked for a continuance of the Faring Hill LLC and County Road, the Hidden Trails. They've asked to be continued until January 6th, I think. So we'll talk about it, but if there's anybody here talking about that development, we will not be taking any discussion on it. All right, please, Carol. Oh, wait. Who's here? Roll call. You're first.
Okay, Paula Jean O'Neill.
Autumn Wood.
Carol Melanson.
Sandy Slavin.
Michael Mercier.
Donna Colbert.
Joseph Still.
And for the record, Donna, have you been sworn in?
I have indeed.
Well, welcome as our associate. I appreciate your time on this. So we're all legal and ready to go.
Thanks so much.
Okay, Carol, first hearing.
Okay. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 320, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass. On the request for determination of an applicability for FSJ Patterson Realty LLC, 309 Neck Road, Rochester, Mass, for determination of a stream as intermittent or perennial. Map 89, Lot 2, A1, 11 Patterson's Brook Road, Wareham, Mass.
Is there anybody here representing this project?
Madam Chair, Brian Grady, GAF Engineering.
All right, Brian, you're up.
All right, thank you. We are looking for a determination on this stream located behind 11 Patterson's Brook. I have provided you a package of information which we think is sufficient to make that determination. I visited the site on 4 consecutive days at the end of May, early June of this year, and once more at the end of October of this year, and I went out again today briefly. And all those occasions, those 6 days, I observed no flow in the quote-unquote stream behind this property. The today and the October visits, there was no standing water. In the end of May, early June visits, there were standing water, but there was no flow in there. I don't know if any of you were able to get to the site. There really isn't much of a defined channel. What channel there is appears to have been dug by equipment at one time, a long time ago, probably when the subdivision was constructed. So I've provided you with photographic evidence to that effect, documenting the no flow and the dry conditions. All these visits were made during times where there's no drought in effect, and there's no water withdrawals, which would impact the area or reduce flows to this stream, so-called stream. So if I could answer any questions or any feedback, or if any of you were able to make it to the site and have any questions.
Okay, Josh, comments?
So Brian said the qualifications to... Hello? I have a green light. Hello?
You just have to get closer.
Hello? Any better? Okay. As Brian said, the qualifications for determining whether it's perennial or intermittent, you have to see flow, you have to do it within a 12 consecutive month period. The observer has to be qualified or recognized as qualified from the commission, and it has to be outside of drought period, which all the standards, I believe, have been met. So we're looking for a determination of if the standards are met, is it deemed intermitted by the commission?
What do you think it is?
I would agree with Brian's assessment.
Intermittent or perennial?
Correct. Intermittent.
Intermittent.
I'm saying it probably poorly.
Sorry, what?
I said I'm saying it poorly.
Okay. Because it was determined if it was something or something else, so you're indicating that it is identified as an intermittent stream.
Yeah, I would agree with what Brian is proposing.
And because if it's deemed an intermittent, what is the changes in what's allowed around it, I guess I'm asking.
It no longer has a 200-foot buffer.
So you lose the 200-foot buffer. Do you keep the 50 or 30?
So the 50 would be that would be under our bylaw, and that is for commercially zoned or commercial land. So the 50 would stay.
Okay, by losing the 200, it's deemed not to be a river, brook, or stream. Okay. Paula Jean, questions?
No, I don't. I did take a look at it. It's quite a deep ravine. I just wondered, the picture you have for location 5, was that for an outflow when it has more water?
What that is, I don't know if Josh can bring it up, that's the culvert that goes under Little Brook Road
On the other side of...
on the other side. So there's no flow through the culvert under the road at that time.
It was just dry. All it had was an accumulation of trash and tires and...
Correct.
Autumn,
No questions, thank you.
Carol,
No questions, thank you.
Michael?
I was there yesterday and just happened to see a lot of buildup of, say, leaves and so on and so forth. And one would think after a rainstorm that had lasted, rainstorm before, 48 hours before that, there'd be more, I'd say less leaf buildup because they would have washed away. So I have no problem, if it was a perennial stream, so I have no problem calling it a intermittent stream at all. So other than that, no questions.
Okay, yeah, good observation, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Donna?
No questions.
No questions
Joe?
for me.
I have none. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to come and speak to this particular project? Yes, Mr. Smith? Please come forward and identify yourself for the record.
Howard Smith, number 1 Old Plate Drive, West Wareham. What I know of as Patterson Brook, for 50 years, I've lived within 200 yards of that brook. When I lived on Cranberry Highway, Patterson Brook was the main ditch for the Agawam Cranberry Company. It starts up in Carver, works its way down through cranberry bogs. Part of it was fed from the Weweantic River up off of the old Route 58, as we know of as North Carver Road. Comes down through the cranberry bog, goes under Route 28, goes through another cranberry bog. And when I was a kid, that water was so pure, we used to catch trout in that brook. It continues on down underneath the Galt Road, okay, by the St. Anthony's Church, goes through another little cranberry bog off of what they call Beaver Path Road now, and meanders its way down through. And at that, going back, there actually were 2 trout hatcheries on that lower brook. That kind of went by the wayside because of the cranberry bogs and what they were using, literally killed off the fish. One of the people was a gentleman named Howard Robbins. He lost a considerable amount of trout because of that overflow. There were actually the further trout hatchery was further down. It would be kind of behind the post office off of Cranberry Highway. If you go in and down through the woods, you will find the remains of that. There was a gentleman named Ken Graham from Marion, that ran that trout hatchery. in all the years, again, going back to Cranberry Highway, I lived within a couple hundred yards of it. I lived on the east side of it. I moved up off of Main Street, Old Plate Drive. It's within a couple hundred yards of my back door. I just turned 77. I have never seen that brook without water in it.
Do you think its distance to the Patterson Brook Road and Little Brook Road, we may have lost that stream?
Part of it was, there used to be a tremendous amount of water in that area. If you go up Cranberry Highway, just before the West Wareham Fire Station, community mini storage, and you have a couple of industrial buildings there. That, when they built the lower section of Route 25, that was a Barber Green plant where they mixed asphalt for that road. At that point in time, they had a 3-inch pump running 24 hours a day to remove that water from that higher side of Route Cranberry Highway that fed down through there. That has probably been affected at this point in time. But again, I never remember that brook being dry without any kind of a flow.
Brian, what might have changed?
Nothing's changed. Patterson Brook is a different brook located to the east. This is a smaller dry ditch. It doesn't have a name, as indicated on any USGS sheets. If I can show Mr. Smith the plan here. This is the property we're talking about, and this is where the stream I'm talking about is located. This is Patterson Brook up here. So it's not Patterson Brook. On this subdivision plan, it's identified as a drainage easement.
So it's a no name.
Yes.
We're just used to, those that have been around for a while are used to the Patterson Brook.
Correct. It's Patterson
Yeah,
Brook
we've known.
Road, correct.
Yeah. So this is a different,
It's
Water.
totally different. This is not Patterson Brook. It's an unnamed. I've seen it on some plans, maybe referred to as Little Brook, which is Little Brook Road, is the corner street. But on this subdivision plan, it's identified as a drainage easement. So that's why I believe a portion of it may have been actually excavated by equipment, which is really the only defined channel in there. So it's not the Patterson Brook that Mr. Smith referred to.
Howie, are you comfortable that it's a different water than the Patterson Brook you knew?
Yes, looking at the plan,
Okay,
I feel a little bit better, to be honest with you.
okay.
But I do know that there was flowing years ago. There was a good considerable flow there because, as I stated, across the street, there used to be a farm there. The water used to feed down through this drainage ditch.
So the Patterson Brook you knew is probably still there and still flowing?
Still flowing very
Yes.
well.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
Down there any day, you got a garden hose coming up there, and you'll drink some of the best water you've ever had in your life.
Thank you, Howie.
Been many a days down there as kids.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else would like to comment on this? Anybody online?
Not at this time.
Okay,
I motion to close the hearing.
Second?
I have a motion to close the hearing. And a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 0, 0. You associates can't,
No, I know, I'm saying you have only 5.
yes? Yes. Josh, your recommendation?
-2 and a -5.
So moved.
Second.
That's the motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
500, thank you. Did I ask everybody if they had comments? I did.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, please.
Okay. And this is going to be for Dottie Street.
And Star.
I gotta find it.
Do you need this?
Is that the one I want? I've got Doughty Street on the agenda as being next.
So that is,
Oh, okay,
see,
all right, yep. Okay, pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts
you've already
Oh,
read that.
okay. This is a notice of public hearing on the request for notice of intent for N-Star Electric Company doing business as Eversource, 247 Station Drive, SE 270, Westwood, Mass. 02090, to construct various outdoor gravel training areas and a material storage area. Upgrade an existing site-grassed, watered, quality swale and detention basin. This will include brush removal, new drainage structures and subsurface utilities, demolition of existing parking islands and light poles, grading and resizing of detention basin, and grassed water quality swale and landscaping.
Thank you. And I'll-
Map 103, Lot A1, 37 Doughty Street, Wareham, Mass.
And I'll trade you for that.
Thank
This.
you.
And who's here to represent this project, please?
My name is Eric Olson with VHB, here to represent Eversource.
Eric Olson.
Yes, OLSON, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Talk to us about what you want to do there.
All right, so Eversource has acquired this property at 37 Doughty Street, which is, as many of you probably know, it's the old flagship cinema building and property. So what they're looking to do is convert that building into a training facility as well as the grounds. And so, is that me or is it someone else?
No, I don't.
So here is an overview. I have a closer-up of the area near the wetland, but this is an overview of the project. And as you can see, most of it is outside of the Concom jurisdiction. This is the erosion controls in pink, but this is the 100-foot buffer zone and the 50-foot NAZ area right here. And so basically, this is the building out here, and they're going to do various gravel training areas throughout here and in here. And so that, like I said, most of the work is out here. And the detention basins that currently exist, like this is a existing paved parking area with existing drainage. There's a detention pond here and here. And when they do this work, they will be expanding the impervious surface outside of the jurisdiction slightly. So that will require them to expand the detention basin a little bit. So one key thing to note is that, so you can see the, see like a little bit more close up near the wetlands here. So the orange right here is the existing fence line. Everything inside the existing fence line is previously disturbed area where you have the detention basins, slopes, and just on this side of the detention basin, this is just all maintained lawn. And so there's no trees in here. As you can see in the pictures here, there's just saplings and brush, essentially. So the work area that is inside the 100-foot buffer zone and the NAZ is all in green. There's smaller areas within the NAZ, but essentially what's happening in here is there's going to be some grading within the detention basin to expand its volume. And as you can see on the top left picture that I provided you here, you can kind of see the fence line up here, and there's a berm, and all the frag there is the detention basin, or that might be, well, anyway, all the vegetation down there is the basin, and that's its upper berm. So essentially, you see at the very top of the berm is the fence line. That's the boundary of the project. On the inside of the fence line will be all the erosion controls, and all the grading will happen on the inside of that berm, so below the top of the berm. So there won't be any grading that has any chance of going down the other side of the berm towards the wetland. Everything will be within the existing disturbed area inside the existing fence line. So that's the way they're going to expand the detention basin is to raise its height a little bit along the edge, along the fence line, to expand its volume. The bottom right picture will show you, so inside the NAZ area, again, all this is areas where there's already outlets, there's already the detention basin, so they're just gonna rework and put in, new piping and a new outlet control structure here, but it's all within areas that are previously disturbed. They are going to extend this fence line. In the bottom right-hand picture, you can see the fence line kind of ends. They're going to extend it more out towards the road. And it's all within upland area. When you look at the picture in the bottom right, I'm essentially standing on Dottie Street, and it's just coming up a little bit from that existing fence line towards Dottie Street in an upland area. So all the work within the NAZ is essentially within already disturbed area, and nothing is disturbing any wetlands. This project has no impacts on any wetlands. It's all 100-foot buffer zone and a little bit of work, I think 5,300 square feet of regrading within the NAZ in previously disturbed areas. The planning board oversees stormwater in the town, right?
Yes.
So they've been in front of the planning board, and that meeting went very well. I think the reason they didn't close out is because they need
our approval.
your approval. So as far as the stormwater goes, that's not exactly past the planning board, but it's been in front of them, and that seems to be okay and on track to close out. They are putting, new deep sump catch basins. There's a grassy swale in this area that they're expanding to, increase the volume, and this volume will be increased down here. And the whole point here is to, maximize infiltration, and have less runoff. So, and this is your typical outlet where you have, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have an outlet structure that's risen from the bottom, so it would have to get pretty full for it to top over and get down into the wetland. So, and again, the erosion controls that we plan, this is the erosion control plan here, and you'll see there's a stabilized construction entrance, and they're surrounding this whole area. The work area will be blocked off by erosion control on this whole side, and then any work in this field, in this in little meadow area or maintained lawn, will also have erosion controls between it and that. So I think overall, this is pretty low impact as far as wetlands go. I felt like this was almost RDA material, but given that we're grading inside the NAZ, I felt maybe an NOI was more appropriate. So do you have any questions?
Josh, please.
So it's pretty much all the grading in an already established retention basin. So you're just basically upgrading that from something that was previously approved.
That's
in
exactly
our
right.
NAZ. Okay.
Yep.
The commission has taken a pretty hard stance on work within our no activity zone, but it seems like this may have already been approved at some point in time, so it's almost an amendment to work that was already approved in our NAZ.
That's right. I would think the NAZ would be like you're trying to preserve natural vegetation and trees and.
We expand a little bit upon that, but
Yeah.
with this being just a expansion of something that already exists, you're not expanding any further. It's more of an upgrade.
Exactly. We're not expanding out. We're just expanding up. They're just going to raise the height of that berm to get more volume.
And then the other thing I would mention is I think, with all the activity that could happen on this site, I think some resource area signs would be appropriate
Okay.
to identify where the resource area is.
Sounds good.
If you had some type of plan for where you're gonna be pushing snow and stuff like that, it shouldn't be towards the resource area.
Okay. And do you want to put that in the order of conditions? Okay. There's plenty of room on this site, I think, to deal with snow. That doesn't have to go anywhere near that.
Right.
I agree. Okay. Any other questions?
I will ask. Paula Jean?
Well, I went there and I walked around for a while and looked, and I didn't think of the term detention basin. I looked and I thought, whoa, this is wetland. There's frag, and there are cattails, and there's some trees, pitch pine, white pine, deciduous trees without the leaves, and I didn't try to be a detective and figure out what they were. And I thought automatically, well, that's within the zone where you can't do anything because it's wet, and I've seen that's what we do here. If it's a wet resource, we don't allow people to do anything. So that was kind of in my head, and I've listened to what you had to say, but it didn't really match my first impression. Then I have a question about it, a material storage area. What will the material be, and how close to this will that material be?
Chris, if you wouldn't mind coming up, you might be able to. This is Chris Vanderberg with CEC.
State my name.
Yes, please.
For the record, Chris Vandenberg with CEC.
Can you spell your last name,
yes.
just for our minute taker?
Yeah.
Thank you.
VANDENBERGHE.
Thank you.
You asked about the material storage.
And what is the material?
That is probably, I
Big.
don't think it's listed on this necessary plan. That would probably be, I believe, in the
Yes, you want to
top.
sit here?
Yeah, sure. You have a full set of plans, right, online?
Yeah,
We do.
Yes.
microscopic, but,
This area up here is the material storage, but that's close to a 100-foot buffer. That was kind of more Eversource's. We didn't get really specific direction on what specific materials they would be.
you don't know what it is, so not something that could eventually, with the elements on it, leach through the ground into
That-
that area, or?
That could be something that's, as a condition in the order of condition. We just knew it was called material storage.
Pretty general, yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
really think they're using any hazardous materials. I mean, material storage, similar to their facility up the street at 5 Dottie Street.
Yeah, I saw
You
that
know,
one.
it might be gravel, sand, or equipment that they use, as part of their work. But I don't.
But we don't really know.
Yeah, and they, as a business, follow the laws of storing hazardous waste, legally, so I don't think that's really what they're doing. This is a training facility. It's actually kind of interesting, because they have a mini one at 5 Dottie Street, where you see the street poles along the sides of the street, and they have half-size utility poles with all the equipment on them. It's like mocked-up equipment, so everyone can come in and train and learn how to do all the work, but in an area that, some of these will be energized and some of them won't. But I think as far as like hazardous materials or anything that will leach, I don't believe they will be, have anything like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm writing, no hazardous material to be stored on site.
So sometimes I forget that the commission doesn't attend every meeting that I attend. So there was a preliminary meeting within the departments of the town about this project. And another thing they're looking to potentially use this site for is for when there are weather-related emergencies that happen in southeastern Mass or the Cape. This will be almost like a command center.
You're a staging area.
Yeah,
That's right.
so, where the N-Star trucks or Eversource will come in, kind of get where they're going for the day in one of these emergencies, and use this as like a home base of sorts.
Kind of like a big
So-
parking lot.
Exactly.
Yep.
Which is what it is now.
Yeah, which is essentially what it is, yeah, that's right.
It is. Well, there is some green space here and there around it, some grassy areas, and I didn't know whether those were gonna get removed.
Yeah, there'll be gravel areas.
And that, each
You can
blade
see-
of grass
You can see it on there,
counts.
this,
Yeah. I agree.
Mentioned this graphic.
so I think this is probably the grass you saw,
Yep.
the swales there, and that will be a gravel training area, like I was saying with the poles.
So you
and-
will lose some, like,
Some grass,
live
yeah.
space for, dead space, I guess we'll call it,
Right.
Okay, anything else? Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Paula Jean. Nice research. And Carol,
No questions, thank you.
Michael?
Yes, towards the end of your opening statements, you were saying something about erosion control measures. What types of erosion control measures are being planned, are planning to be used in this project?
Oh, typically silt fence, or wattles. I think a lot of the time we end up using wattles that are more efficient, easier to install. You don't have to disturb the ground.
Because we normally ask for hay bales and silk fence, but a wattle would do better than a silk fence and hay bales that have to be removed somewhere down the line, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So, good questions. I was about to ask that one, too.
Okay,
You
beat
beat
you to
me.
it, yes.
Eversource's policy too is to use to use biodegradable material. So anything that's not biodegradable as a wrap for the wattles, they don't allow. So everything will be biodegradable, and as typical projects go, it will be removed, before the certificate of compliance is issued.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Donna?
So I was wondering, what methods are you using to increase the level of the berm that's creating this more capacity in the drainage area, the holding area? And are you making it deeper as well? And where's that material coming from?
I don't know where the material is coming from. I know right now they're right in this kind of area. The existing bottom of the detention basin is 29, so just based on, we didn't do any test pits out there, so the bottom elevation is going to be proposed to be the same. We were essentially trying to utilize the existing space that was already there. So if you've been out to site, like this is mostly all open space. You got a tree line in this area. So Eversource provided us with their proposed layout, and they kind of wanted us to make it work. So we had some room here for expansion and a little bit of room along the frontage of Doty Street to make it slightly bigger. So we kind of utilized that methodology to pretty much expand it lengthwise versus elevational-wise. So the bottom's maintaining the same, and just running our calcs with the additional area that was being proposed for the site. We noticed in existing conditions, there was a foot of freeboard provided in the basin, so to maintain that same foot of freeboard, we were requiring to raise the berm by 8 inches, and it would just probably be standard just fill material. That was my thought on it, but I don't know where they'd be getting the material on site.
From my understanding, there's some grading in the project, but minimal. It's mostly flat topography, so I imagine maybe some material will come from on-site and reused. But if they do end up having to import any material, they go by, legal means and would test that material and make sure it's clean material coming in.
Thank you.
Probably loam. I imagine they'd use like some kind of loam mix too.
Probably the grass they're going to take off in order to put down all that gravel.
Yeah, that's right. So it might be a
Donna,
combination of
anything else?
Yeah, and you mentioned storm sort of command center kind of use for that. Would there be any salt stored on this property? In their storage
Not to my
area?
knowledge, because their storm command center isn't so much for plowing and icing, it's more for like power outages. So you got all these bucket trucks that when power lines go down, they need to go fix them. So it's not really, like, there won't be like a salt shed or anything like that, and then they won't be doing, having trucks with salt in it. It's more bucket trucks
bucket
ready
trucks.
to deploy to,
Okay.
fix down power lines.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe?
No, I do like that, we have more, N-Star trucks around at that place. I like that, more closer to get our power back on when it goes off, but no other questions. No.
Because when the storm is coming, well, they're in this parking lot, they're in that parking lot, they're all over town waiting for this, and to have it consolidated in one place makes it
Places to
easy.
park, okay.
Yes, makes it easier to control, and I'm not going to ask you where everybody's going to stay when they come for training. I did watch the planning board, so I will not ask that. If I'm understanding, we will have resource area signs. Snow removal will be pushed away from the resource area, and no hazardous material will be stored on site. Are those the 3 things I saw being added to our standard order of conditions? Josh, was there anything else?
I mean, you can condition that the no hazardous material be stored near our wetlands, but I wouldn't say,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say
Within the
entirely on the
100-foot
site.
Right. Because I can't, like,
Okay,
that's not my
no
realm.
hazardous material to be stored on site that could leach to the wetlands?
All right, so here's how I'd phrase it. I don't know exactly what I don't believe they will have a lot of hazardous material. Let's say they have some backup gasoline, oil for trucks or whatever. So so any hazardous material will not be stored within the 100-foot buffer zone or within the
Okay,
jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission. Out on the site, that's like out of the,
No.
jurisdiction
So
of the
we'll
Concom.
say no hazardous material to be stored within Concon
the 100-foot buffer zone, or, yeah.
100-foot buffer.
That makes sense. And anything that is on site will be, legally stored by, the proper means and methods.
Okay,
And if it came to a situation where these hazardous materials were affecting the resource area, we as the commission and the agent have the ability to go down there and, demand that they remediate what's been,
And that's
done
standard.
incorrectly.
And
Yeah,
that's
that's-
standard, I don't need to specifically
No, that's,
standard.
yeah, that's written in our bylaw in the Wetlands
Okay.
Protection Act. It's no
Thank you.
different than if someone is working uphill from a resource area entirely out of our jurisdiction, but the work that they're doing affects the resource area. We have the right to
Okay.
condition that project as well.
Thank you. Anybody would like to come and speak to this project, please come forward and identify yourself. Mr. Madden? Oh,
Yeah, I know.
Might as well just stay up here.
I'll be back.
please identify yourself.
Bill Madden, I'm speaking as Bill Madden, trustee of Starbrook Realty Trust, 266 Main Street in Wareham. Just a couple of things that I have. I didn't know if, I don't think it's out of bounds with conservation, but I didn't know if this was considered a high pollutant load requiring the stormwater runoff. Would that be considered a high pollutant load due to the use of this type of training facility? That's one question that I have. And I'll just follow it up. There's also a stormwater general permit associated with our general bylaws that all applicable permits should be applied for prior to coming to conservation. I didn't know if they have applied for the stormwater permit under the Wareham general bylaw.
Okay, Eric, can you respond to those?
I believe the stormwater permit would be under the planning board, right?
No, it's the planning board will issue a report back to conservation, but the stormwater permit under the general bylaw is administered by the Board of Health.
Okay,
So if you go to the general bylaws, they'll have a section in there on that.
all right.
And I just think it's important because I just know that it's been overlooked in some instances, and I think in a situation like this, it could be reasonably important. And the other issue that you might want to consider is, I don't understand what the training will consist of, but on some of the work that I'm recently involved with, if they're doing maintenance of transformers, if they're dealing with emergency conditions with transformers and what have you, most transformers have some type of fluid in it. The fluid's normally a hazardous material. If that's being used, and if that's an element of the training, I'd be just interested in knowing how that would be dealt with as well, because there is a few things that would need to be dealt with that, if that were the case.
Eric?
Right, well, I can't exactly speak to that. I mean, as far as transformers go, anything they'd be using would be the typical type of transformer that you have up on a pole, down every street in the town. So, they'd be built in a way that is, I mean, Chris, I don't know if you can speak to this at all, but I mean, it's your typical transformer that's not gonna be just, leaking materials or whatever. From my understanding, a lot of this stuff isn't energized. They might have some energized training areas, but they might just be innocuous pieces of equipment that don't actually.
A dummy transformer.
Yeah, exactly. So I just, as far as hazardous materials and leaks, I don't see it as a huge issue. I think this is just something that they deal with on a regular basis, and they use materials and, and equipment that is, legal and safe, for lack of a better term. As far as the high pollutant and the stormwater permit that you mentioned, you said it was under the Board of Health?
Yes.
Okay, 'cause I was contracted to just work on this part. So it's my understanding that if it's under the Board of Health, they're going through all the town boards, planning, Board of Health, to get this passed. I don't have any knowledge of that, but it's my understanding that the stormwater permit is not something that is needed for this Conservation Commission permit, right? I mean, to get an NOI passed.
Okay,
I would take the opposite in that, only that the wetlands regs say all applicable permits shall be applied for. And if there is a stormwater permit that the Board of Health is responsible for issuing, I think that permit needs to be evaluated from that perspective.
Yes.
That's all.
No, I know what you're saying. Like, I'm on the Conservation Commission in my town, and the way the town works is most boards, you need a sign off from all other boards to have the work go forward, and I think that's kind of what that would be, where you need to check off from the Board of Health, before work can be done. So, if the Conservation Commission, gives us an order of conditions for the NOI, we can't proceed until we get all applicable permits throughout all the town, but it wouldn't stop us from getting this particular permit. Does that make sense?
Some degree. And the issue with the transformers, I don't think it's really, that simple of an issue. A small transformer can hold upwards of 300 gallons of fluid. We don't know what type of fluid it is. A lot of them is mineral oil now and what have you, but in the past, it's been other materials. Try to get a material safety data sheet for that, for a transformer, and the liquid that's stored within, or used within those transformers from Eversource is like pulling teeth, and I'm going through that right now on a separate project. So I just think that, if we had a good understanding of what was going on, if they were doing emergency training for a ruptured transformer, if you look the way the manholes are assembled, where the risers come up from underground into that transformer, how they're sealed and what have you, there is an opportunity during a catastrophic failure for that material to leak out into the environment. If they don't need to do that type of training, or they're not doing that type of training on the site, that's fine. I
think that's the case, because I think the emergency is separate from the whole intent of the facility. The facility is just to train electricians to how to work on poles. The emergency aspect is just when there's a storm, it's a hub to organize everyone, where you're going, where are all the power outages. So it's not necessarily emergency training. They're not trying to replicate any spills or blown transformers. They're really just trying to teach people how to work on these lines.
Exactly.
So-
I mean, I have no, objection to the project at all, but I just, from my own experience, those are a couple of things that I've encountered.
So I'd like to see the Board of Health determine whether or not the stormwater plan includes the possibility of capturing that type of leak.
Well, there's a set of rules in the
Yep.
stormwater, in the general bylaw.
Yep.
It just says what's applicable, what isn't.
Yep.
I think it's a simple case of just going through it and seeing if your project does require it or doesn't require it. There are many that do not require the stormwater permit under the general bylaw. But it's something that, you should probably just be cognizant of it. I know that it's been around for a while, and it's overlooked. I try not to overlook it, but it has happened. I'll be honest about that.
Thank you. Josh, any comments on this?
Yeah, if there's something that we're overlooking, that's an issue. And if it is the case that we need something from the Board of Health before issuing a decision, I'll have to look into that in more detail. But if that is the case, I would recommend a continuance tonight. At least let me get some of those details in order before we move forward. And I think Mr. Madden brings up some valid points. If they are doing training on these transformers, it's worth asking the question if where they're doing the training has the ability to capture these pollutants before they get to the resource area.
Because I've not seen this project on the Board of Health agenda.
I don't believe it requires a public hearing with the Board of Health. I believe it's just an application that's submitted to the Board of Health and some data,
Okay.
and then they issue a permit back. That's how I.
So your recommendation is that we continue this to the 20th to get some feedback from the Board of Health regarding the stormwater permit? Is that your recommendation?
That would be my recommendation.
Now, Chris and Eric, I don't know whether or not you feel you need to come back for the meeting on the 20th.
You have a virtual option, right? I mean, I
Yes,
can
yes,
come back.
yes, you can
but-
come Zoom, yep.
So Josh, I can talk with you. We can figure it out coming up to that meeting, whether
Yeah.
my presence is needed.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I would ask, your client about the training, and, maybe ask them more specifically about the training and, what their proposed material storage is. Just because, that part of the plan is pretty vague.
Anybody else?
Motion to close the hearing?
Nope.
No.
We're going to continue until the 20th.
Oh, I thought we had to close it first.
No,
No.
we motion to continue till the 20th.
Okay, motion to continue to December 20th, 2023.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of continuance?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. We are continued. Thank you.
For the archives.
Next one, please.
Okay, as soon as I figure out where I am. Okay. Okay, this is a notice of intent.
Thank you.
I've got it. For, where is it? I lost it.
Top.
Top. Oh, yes, James Bilodeau, 278 Barker Road, Wareham, Mass. Installation barrier, concrete block retaining wall, concrete steps, backfilled slope material, and slope protection matting.
Map.
Oh, map number 125, lot C2, 278 Barker Road, Wareham, Mass.
Thank you. And who's here representing this project?
Madam Chair, members of the commission, my name is Scott Rolfe. I am the Engineering Operations Manager for OHI Engineering. Our offices are at 44 Wood Avenue in Mansfield.
Okay, Scott, can you spell your last name for me?
R-O-L, F as in Frank, E.
Thank you. And,
I'm James Bilodeau. I'm the owner of the property.
okay. Okay, Scott, you're up.
Well, first I'd like to just say, this is the first time in 51 years I've had an opportunity to come to a hearing in Wareham.
Whoa, I hope you didn't have to travel too far.
No, not too bad.
Hope you haven't been doing work in Wareham.
And I want to commend you on your choice of agents. Josh was, he was very helpful in the process of dealing with a municipality that you don't normally deal with, so.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you
Yes,
for
we
that.
feel lucky. Okay,
Mr. Bilodeau owns property right on White Island Pond, and about 9 years ago, this commission issued an order of conditions Mr. Madden has some familiarity with. Mr. Bilodeau had a problem with his, the slope of his property washing into the pond from wave action from those storms. He had a design done. You all have this book, do you not? Or any part of it?
well,
No, I'm gonna
we-
pull it
I
up on the
I have some
screen.
pictures in there.
Josh is
Pull it
going to
up
put
on
it
the
up on the
screen right now.
screen, because you included it in the paperwork we got to review.
All right, well, there are photographs in, I'm gonna see if I can hold mine up here.
Well, Joshua will be putting it on the screen so we can
All right,
see,
well,
we can see the erosion that has occurred.
I'm working on it.
All
Yeah.
right.
Technical difficulties. Blow by,
Yep.
did I?
There you
Okay,
go.
Here we go. Let me,
All right. The three photos on the left were construction that was done after the erosion took place to stabilize the slope so that it wouldn't do it again. Mr. Bilodeau spent a little north of $21,000 on this project from start to finish, just to have it wash away again. There was a storm occurred not too long after this was put in, caused some damage. It was repaired, caused another storm, took some more material out, and then it was repaired a third time, and that failed. So he came to us and asked if we could do something a little more permanently. So what we're proposing here is, we're proposing to install a precast concrete block, essentially a retaining wall, at the same location as where the base of the slope is. There are existing wooden stairs in this location right under where we're proposing to put concrete stairs. And there would be some riprap installed at the base of the wall in front of the retaining wall. Now, this would give a permanent solution. These blocks are substantial in size. They are embedded into the soil at the beach, if you will, and there's no amount of wave action that's ever going to come off of White Island Pond that will erode this solution. So, there's a whole bunch of things on this plan here that I'd want to point out to you. First of all, at the base, this is all the different types of block that are being used. The company that manufactures the block, Shea Concrete, gave us a nice diagram here showing how all these pieces go together, where they bend the stairs, and the returns on each side. The erosion control that we're proposing to go around all this is a silt sack. It's a mulch wattle. We like those, but I don't care for the straw wattles too much, but the mulch wattle, and we included in this particular case a silt barrier, silt fence, because of the proximity to the pond, because of the degree of the slope that we have, coming towards the pond. We thought it would offer better protection. So the silt fence will be brought up to the 100-foot buffer. There will be, this if constructed, would be, this would happen by, there would be machinery in there to do the excavation. It would be working from the front edge of the block, where the block goes back. There wouldn't be any machinery on the beach. And any material that would be taken out of there would be stored behind it. We would expect construction for a project like this to last 2 or 3 days tops. The material would be brought to the site. This would be excavated. Material would be put right in place, and it would be backfilled. The riprap would go in front, and that would be the end of it. The stairs, the wooden stairs would be taken out. The new stairs are it's kind of overkill as far as I'm concerned, but that's the way they make them. It's a concrete slab, 4 feet by 4 feet, and they put the first one down, they use a construction adhesive on it, and they set the next one down on top of that, next one on top of that. So it's a substantial stairway that'll outlast all of us, I'm sure. Brad Holmes had done the wetland delineation for us. I hope you folks have some familiarity with him. We use him quite often. So he has inland bank flags here running outside of the silt barrier. He has wetlands on either side here, and they stop at the tree line. They stop here at the stairs. So this was mostly just grass, and now it's gone a little wild, and it's got a little bit of brush on it. But this is all just in an effort to stabilize the slope and stop the erosion from continuing.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Okay, Josh, you're up.
Yeah, so normally I would say I wouldn't expect a lot of erosion from a pond like that, but I was out there on one of the days where it was windy, and it happens.
That was my question. Since when did White Island Pond cause this type of erosion? It's just the way the winds and the waves hit your property.
Well, we face north, and so when a nor'easter comes in, I think I might have shown you a video on my phone. You get whitecaps out there, and they crash up against the land. I mean, I think you saw the pictures. I have actually some hard copies of them. It was substantial what was built in the past, and quite frankly, when it was there, I thought, this looks great, this is gonna last, it's gonna be good, and a nor'easter came through and absolutely wiped it out.
Yes, I saw the pictures of the erosion. It was quite surprising.
Yeah, yep.
So I think historically, this project was brought on from an illegal construction of a pond wall, I guess I'll call it.
Not by me.
Not by the applicant, but his project was an attempt to, prevent that.
Yeah, Barker Road has a lot of violations all up and down that area, so I would not be surprised as there were a prior owner did something.
Right. And then, as stated, the current applicant has done a lot to try to maintain what that project was initially, and it's just not appropriate there, or the means of which it was constructed aren't appropriate there. So looking at that and looking at what he has proposed, there's no, the commission looks at a few things, I think, when we're looking at seawall encroachment into the resource area being, are they gaining any type of usable lawn space or anything like that? I don't see that here. And it's an upgrade to what is eventually just gonna erode away, in my opinion, but.
All right, Paula Jean,
No questions, thank you.
Autumn.
I do have a question about the sediment that you're gonna displace for the construction. I know you're planning to store it upland. What's your method of containment for that material?
Actually, the majority of the material will be taken out, will be reused as backfill. Because the slope goes down right to the beach edge. This will have a, the height of the wall will be at elevation 54.0. The beach is approximately 47 and change. So, a lot of that material will be taken out, will be put back in place. I don't think there'll be much, if anything, to remove from the site.
So it's a short-term
If it had
storage.
to, it could be brought outside the jurisdiction, someplace else on the property. He's got a very big yard that could be,
Oh, yeah.
could be moved to.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carol.
No questions, thank you.
Michael.
Yes, excuse me. Just on the wall, it looks like it's gonna be a nice assembled wall with the locks in places as the way it's proposed. Just a quick question, what types of stones are gonna be used in that wall?
It's all concrete.
It's all concrete, the entire
Concrete
wall?
that has a decorative face on it.
Okay,
As a matter of fact, the top cap, if you look at the plans, the top cap has, if this, for instance, was one of the cap blocks, it has a lip on the front that's raised up, and then the fill actually goes over that. So when he brings his lawn down, and it'll actually cover a portion of the top of the wall. So you're not gonna have like a block wall you're gonna sit on, like you're not sitting on concrete. It's just gonna have like a couple inch wide lip on the front
Sure.
showing, so it won't be very noticeable as a wall from up above. It'll only be from the water. There are a couple patterns that are available. One's just a kind of a rough texture concrete, makes it look like almost like natural stone, and there are other ones that have cut lines in them that make them look like they were stones mortared in place.
okay.
I think Mr. Bilodeau favors the textured concrete, but I can't. You can ask him.
All right, well, whatever suits his choice, I guess, but other than that, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Donna.
No questions, thank you.
Joe.
No questions from me either.
Anybody on the audience like to speak to this project? John, anybody online?
Not at this time.
Motion to close the hearing?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Everybody in favor? Anybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0 opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. Josh, your recommendation, please.
Let's issue our standard order of conditions.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion for a standard order of conditions and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0-0. Oh, I keep forgetting about the green cards.
I'm not, don't worry.
Okay. So we're done, and you have approval before you start anything. Work with Josh for your paperwork. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The receipts for the certified mail were included in the application. This is just the last one that came
Okay,
for the
then-
filing fee for the state.
Okay, you can give it to Josh on your way out. and that will-
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
1 for 1 in Wareham.
Perfect record.
Okay, next one, please.
Okay, this is a notice of intent for Paul R. and Elaine L. Coughlin, 333 Riccianti Drive, Quincy, Mass. 02169, for construction of an addition and renovations to the existing dwelling within the land subject to coastal storm flowage and the 100-foot buffer to a coastal bank. Map 7, B2, Lot 20, 25 Cleveland Way, Wareham, Mass.
And who's here representing this project?
I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering here on behalf of Paul and Elaine Coughlin.
Thank you. All right, please describe the project.
All right, make sure I get the right one. I didn't know if you were provided with plans. Did you have the plans, Josh, for this?
Yeah, they've all
All seen it?
been allowed.
It's
to
available
see it.
online to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anything that you supply me in the open gov permit,
Yep.
they have the ability to view.
Very good.
And I will also share it here as well.
Okay. Yeah, it's a small home renovation predominantly with the, that shaded area that you see on the plan right there. They're going to bump out the front of the house a little bit. This is all outside of the, well, it's within the 100-foot buffer zone to a coastal bank. But that shaded area indicates the limit of new construction. They'll be bumping out the house a few feet. I think it's like about 335 square feet. The front door is shown coming up an existing walkway, and they'll be providing a connecting link between the house and the detached garage that sits to whatever direction that is. I'll call it the north. That sits to the north, so there'll be a link now directly to the house, to the garage. There'll be a large deck that is going to be constructed immediately adjacent to that linear addition, and you can see the stairs that are located in that easterly-most corner of the deck. Those are the stairs that'll come from the deck. They'll have they'll step down, I don't know, half a dozen steps, a small landing, and then return down and then end up underneath that deck. Underneath the deck, it was proposed just to be left as like river stone, rounded stone, something along those lines. Was not intended to be paved or anything along those lines. So that was the building project, so to speak, and what's being proposed there. In addition to that, there's a set of stairs that go down to the beach. It's a set of concrete stairs, and what we wanted to leave it a little bit open, that they could be either 3-foot wide wood or aluminum. We think the aluminum would be a little easier to install over the concrete stairs. Those are cast-in-place concrete stairs. So my thoughts were is that if we remove those from the site, then we have a restoration issue to deal with that bank. And going through the winter and the summer and adverse conditions, easterly facing bank there, that I think stabilization could be problematic getting it established. So my thought was if we could leave the stairs, the concrete stairs in place and build our new stairs over those concrete stairs, that it would eliminate the potential for adverse impact to the bank and allow for a little bit less disturbance. So, I know that we did a large aluminum set of stairs out on Green Gate. I don't know if you remember that when we did that. We had a landing, a platform. It was probably 70 or 80 feet in length, or vertical height, rather. This is substantially less than that. But we found that the aluminum was a good solution, and we would anchor the aluminum with small helical anchors, just sort of like helical piers. So we wouldn't be driving anything into the ground. Other than that, there'd be no concrete work, no big excavation of holes. That's what we'd have to do if we made it out of wood. Each one of our stringers that need support every 6 or 8 feet would have to be carried by a 4x4 post or a 6x6 post that would need to be dug into the ground immediately adjacent to that. So we thought that this was just a better way to get the same job done, feeling that the vegetation would grow underneath the stairs and over the concrete steps the way they are now. Those of you that have been to the site, see how grown in that was. And it was grown in fairly well. I know there has been some disturbance of that vegetation on that slope as well, and I think we were just trying to avoid that. But I think that's the trickiest part of the job, the building of the house up there and putting that little dry well in for the roof drains. Think that's relatively straightforward. There seems to be a fair amount of staging area on the site for materials and equipment. It is going to be tricky for the contractor to bring his equipment into the property. But, you know, after walking around on the north and the south side, we felt that smaller gauge type construction equipment would be able to get in there to do the work. Lumber could be delivered, put out in the front. It's tight quarters up there on Cleveland. It's not a lot of room to work, not a lot of parking for the contractors in the labor and what have you. So, you know, those are a couple of other things that we looked at there, but relatively small job, though. That's the way it is proposed right now, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Josh, your comments, please.
Yeah, they have a concrete wall that kind of defines the limit of the bank, or the top of the bank, and it kind of skirts up the property line. I mean, that wall is in a little bit of disrepair, so it's probably something to keep an eye on moving forward. It does look like the actual coastal bank had some vegetation removed or trimmed, or, you know, something along those lines over the past, which, you know, that type of activity should stop. And I would just mention that any dumping of yard waste or debris shouldn't be onto that coastal bank. It should be removed from the property. None of the work is proposed within our 30-foot no activity, other than what would be the aluminum stairs. If anyone actually got to walk down the stairs, they were pretty dangerous, I'd say, especially with a nice layer of oak leaves on them. So I think this is a good solution to allowing access down to the water.
Any questions? Start with Paula Jean.
Okay, I did go over there and walk around. It was all nicely staked out, so it was, I did have a little conversation with that holly tree that's right at the end of the proposed deck. What kind of a holly is that? Is that a big leaf holly? Because those are protected, and I thought if the deck crowding into it obviously would impact it sooner or later. It may be, there are several variety, and
Let me see if I grab the photo
would be a
of it.
project for me to figure out which kind it was. I thought, oh, Josh will know immediately. But it's a very beautiful and symmetrical holly tree there. I'd hate to see that
I don't see it.
sacrificed.
Is that the one that's noted right by Zone
It
X
is
with that
noted,
X
so I
on the
wondered
plan?
what the plan was about that.
It's to remain.
Yeah, but the deck is, the stake for the deck was like right up to the tree. Looked pretty close. Just a comment, I wondered what kind of tree what kind of holly that was.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of putting the steps over the other steps and not disturbing all of that, for sure.
I'll have to actually
That's
look
all,
at my
but I
photos.
thought we should
I'm having
check that
trouble
out.
pulling them up, but
Mm-hmm.
The way it looks in the plan, it seems to me that we could preserve that tree. We don't have a continuous concrete foundation supporting the deck. The deck's going to be supported likely on big foot piers and columns coming up and
Yeah.
whatever 4x4 or 6x6s. So excavation will be limited to just the footprint of that. So I think we can preserve it.
That would be good. If it's the type, I think it might be. I'm not sure if it's even on the endangered list. It may not be, but
I'll identify it. I think I did grab some photos of it, so.
yeah, if it's a big leaf, the Montana version.
Okay.
Thank you.
Autumn,
No questions, thank you.
Carol,
No questions.
Michael.
Yes, on the addition, any issues in concern to runoff or not?
Not necessarily with the addition. That's why we were proposing to have like the river stone underneath the deck. So any of that runoff that lands on the deck can probably go through the deck boards and infiltrate into the ground. And then we also show a small dry well in the front of the property, picking up the roof runoff. So our downspouts from the new construction will be piped to that and, provide a little bit of groundwater recharge.
All right, thank you.
Donna.
No questions, thank you.
Joe.
No questions for me.
Anybody in the audience or online that would like to comment on this project? I am hearing possible two additions to our standard, that the coastal bank, there'll be no dumping of yard waste on the coastal bank.
Yep.
And should we put the preserve the holly tree in our conditions?
Yeah, I mean, it's not proposed to be removed in any way anyway, but
But save it save it if possible.
yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't think, you don't see any objections to that, do you, Mr. Madden?
No, not at all.
So we would be looking at the standard order conditions with these two additional comments. Anybody else? So I can motion to close the hearing.
Move to close the hearing?
Second?
A motion and a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500 to close the hearing. Josh, your recommendation?
Standard order conditions with no yard waste or debris to be dumped over the coastal bank and to preserve the holly tree.
Second?
I have that motion and I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. We're done. Thank you. Now, we have continued hearing for Corkley, 1014 and 16 River Terrace. This has been continued and continued. I'm trying to find out, when did we first, January 4th, 2023 was the first hearing.
I was gonna say, this was one of the first projects that I was part of.
I think we've given this homeowner plenty of time, and you've spoken to them regarding this?
Yeah, so I spoke to their representative about, the delays that they've been having, and, I would say that the delays were probably out of their control for a lot of it, but nonetheless, they've been on our agenda for a very long time, and I've made it clear to them that we're looking for a decision at our December 20th meeting.
Okay, so it has already been continued in the 20th, December 20th. Just make a statement that it will be decided on the 20th, whether or not we deny it or whether or not they withdraw it. It will be up to them, and we'll hear from their representative on the 20th.
Yep, and they were gonna reach out to the applicant to
I forgot it was
figure out which way they wanted
almost
to
a
move.
year.
Almost
Yeah,
a year.
2 weeks shy of a year. I think we've been very patient. Denise would not have allowed it to go this long. Okay, the next we have is Prime Engineering. They've already been continued until December 20th. That's the solar farm. And we have the Faring Hill LLC, Hidden Trails. They've asked that it be continued until,
Today?
no, January
January 3rd. Our first
January
year
Third,
in
2024?
January.
All right.
1/3/24. They've made a request to be continued until January 3rd, 2024.
Yeah, and just to give you a little background on that, Phil Cadero, who was doing the peer review for our commission, has completed that, and he's working on his actual statement letter, so I'll be able to get that out to the commission, I'd imagine next week. And they are doing a 21E environmental assessment of the property, so they'll probably have some type of a report for that by our next hearing as well.
So I think we need a motion to continue until January 3rd, 2024.
Motion to continue till January 4th, 2024?
23rd, that's the motion.
Second.
I have a second, all in favor? Aye, opposed,
Aye.
abstained, we're continued until the 3rd. Thank you. Now we have certification of compliances.
Yeah, so the first one is for Roger Keys, 7 Harborview Lane, DEP file number SE 0762669. I did a site visit to this property, and the work was in compliance with the order of conditions. So the recommendation is to issue a certificate of compliance.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500, approved. Next one, please.
So the next one is for David Rycroft of 17 Oak Street, Mass DEP file number SE0762796. You did supply this COC, but in my opinion, the work was done in conformance with the order of conditions, so I would suggest issuing a certificate of compliance. I would mention that there is a boat stored within the salt marsh that's below the property that should be removed from the salt marsh and stored somewhere else. So,
Do you want this issued only on the condition that that boat be removed? Or just, let's speak to the owner.
yeah, you could probably relay that information to them, and
Yeah, if I might add, I'll relay that interest. I'll relay that information to Mr. Rycroft, and I know I think they're in Virginia, but I believe he's coming back up, but I'll pass that along and have him remove that boat from the salt marsh.
Thank you.
yeah, from I guess a personal opinion, he's been very easy to work with. I don't see that as being an issue. And if it is an issue, we can deal with that later, but I don't think it will be. So I would suggest the issuance of the certificate of compliance.
So moved?
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500.
And then the final one, George Matofis it says 24 Sunset Island, it's actually 24 Sunset Avenue in Onset. This is an old one, DEP number SE076-461. So this is, one of those ones that gets caught by a lawyer and they question.
They probably sold the property 14 times and they finally got noticed.
It hasn't actually been sold at all, and it's not being sold. It's being transferred to one of the siblings solely, and this was one
Wow.
of the conditions.
461.
So it was for the construction of a pier that has probably not been there in the last however many years, and instead of trying to rebuild it, they've decided just to remove it entirely. So the issuance of the certificate of compliance would be my recommendation.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. All right, we have an amended order of condition request for Danny Warren, who's here to represent this particular project. Limp.
You should have just stayed in the chair.
That's all right.
You keep getting up and down and you're in pain.
Practice. He at least left all his stuff up there.
Yeah.
I did have to carry it back.
Okay, please identify yourself for the record.
I'm Bill Madden from GAF Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of Warren QOZB LLC. They're the ones constructing the project at 59 Main Street. We're seeking an amended order of conditions for some modifications to the plan that he hopes to include with this project.
All right,
Would you like me just to go over those quickly with you?
Please do.
What we did is we tried to update the plans to the best we could with work that, indicating most of the work that had been constructed to date, with the plan set. So we submitted to Josh, like on sheet number 3, for example, shows all of our underground drainage and what have you. So the plans are brought up to speed. What occurred originally is when we went to the planning board and we had the 6,500 square foot building approved, we're back and forth on these two other smaller buildings, the pavilion and the marine office and the Connex box. So we were told by the planning board to submit to them for site plan review the marine office, toilet rooms and what have you, and the pavilion in the Connex box. So we did that. We filed for a site plan review for major site plan modification with the planning board, but we also recognize that we're in a wetland resource area in a coastal flood zone. So we need to also get an amended order of conditions to allow this work to take place in the event everyone's in favor of it. So this project, that what we're presenting tonight, shows the marine office. It has a deck over here in the marine office with toilet rooms. You might recall we did the small 16-slip marina for him, and now he's providing an office and facilities for the people who lease space or rent space at the marina. The Connex box, it's going to be used for some type of food service in the future. I don't know exactly what he's planning on doing there. But we've extended all of our utilities to the, underneath the parking lot into the site, but not knowing what was precisely going to happen there, we just noted that all these utilities would be extended as required into that building. So I view the Connex box as something that, it's going to be on a concrete pad. If it were to be removed in advance of inclement weather or a storm, something along those lines, that could be done. That could be taken off that pad and moved. The other building obviously would remain in its place. It has a foundation that's designed to flood zone standards, and the hold downs are established for flood zone standards with the Connex box. But if any of you that are familiar with Cisco in New Bedford, have you been down there by any chance? The Connex boxes that they have out there, that's pretty much what is being mimicked here on this site.
Good idea.
So those are two components of the amended order that we're looking at. Then we go over to the main building, and you might recall that when we permitted the main building, there was a small area at the south side of the building that was going to be used as part of the restaurant in the kitchen and what have you. And then he's looking at, just squaring off this back area as a deck of some sort. I'm not sure if it's going to be fully enclosed or not. It's going to be at the main floor elevation of the building, so it's going to be elevated above the ground. I believe it's going to be at elevation 17 or so. That's because it's in the AE 15 flood zone. AE 16, we need to have an additional foot of freeboard, so you have to be 1 foot higher than that. So that's what he's looking to do there, is match that in there, include this square footage in the structure. In similar fashion, another 65 square feet down here in the front corner, essentially squaring off that corner of the building. And then the third portion associated with the main restaurant is the construction of this dumpster enclosure. And initially, we had a dumpster enclosure, our standard fenced-in enclosure, and he wanted to have something that was more confining. So he had his structural engineer design a small building with doors that open up and doors that open out in the front. So it added a little more character than just a small, fenced-in 6-yard dumpster, 9-yard dumpster. So that's what he was proposing to do over here on that, whatever it is, the southwesterly portion of the site. So those are the three things. There's 5 elements to it. Those 3 buildings, the dumpster enclosure, the additions onto the main building, and the 2 buildings that are going to be closer to Bessie Park. Showing erosion control essentially being down there by the walkway. So everything, all of our erosion control will be placed at that location, just outside the sidewalk. Most of the drainage is in on the site, so we wouldn't expect to see a whole heck of a lot generated from the project, but it's still wise to place it. I think we called for silt fence and hay bale combo along the water's edge. And that's pretty much it. All the underground utilities are installed. Our water services, our fire services, everything that the infrastructure necessary to carry on the business that he's choosing to carry on is all in place, and these are just a couple of other things that he was hopeful to add. I don't know if you've been to the site recently. I did remember to stake those buildings out. Did we stake out these? I don't know if we did. I know we did those. I thought those.
I think the back, the water side stake, looked like maybe someone had moved it a little bit. It didn't kind of make sense with, what the plan had suggested, but
Okay.
it was there. And then, the front side, I don't think was there, but the other stakes for the marine office were there. If you could find them in the huge pile of, soil that was over there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of topsoil being moved
Yeah,
around, and they're
yeah.
just continuing on with the construction, so it's a pretty busy area.
Mhm.
But that's really the long and the short of what we're trying to accomplish. One thing that if you were so inclined to close the hearing tonight, I think we might prefer to keep it open only because we have not been in front of the planning board yet, and I'm not certain what their position might be on a couple of things. We were originally thinking that we're going to be there for December 11th. That doesn't seem to be the case now, so we're probably not going to be in front of them until the first meeting in January. So, as opposed to taking a risk of having them add something or have us change something that would affect what you do today, I'd request that we keep it open. That's only in the event you were hoping to close it.
Okay. Josh?
Yeah, I'll just make a note that, I think it was either the town planner or the planning board had removed our no activity zone from downtown Wareham and Onset Village.
Yes, we had a bylaw change at a town meeting that says, hey, everything that's been disturbed down there is not under conservation control anymore.
Yeah, so that's just one thing I will note. If someone wanted to see what those plans looked like, to see where those actually stopped, I could get my hands on those, but those are two areas in town where our bylaw isn't exactly the same as what we're used to.
No,
So-
well, everything down here has already been disturbed big time anyway with the old
Greer lumber.
Greer lumber.
That's just what I would note. Other than that, I think it's an approvable project. And it sounds like Mr. Madden has requested a continuance.
So you're looking to the 17th to give the planning a chance? Because our next meeting would be the 3rd of January, and I don't know when planning's going to have this on their plate.
I'm sorry, Sandy, not to cut you off. Isn't our next meeting on December 20th?
Yeah, but he needs to go
Yes,
before
but he
planning
needs to
in
go with
January.
planning
That's
board,
what
and
he
I
said.
thought planning board wasn't going to hear you until January.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be in January with the.
Okay,
with the
I
planning
thought
board, yeah.
you said you were
Yeah.
gonna meet with them.
Yeah.
So
another day.
I'm
Okay,
looking
sorry,
at,
that's
I'm
my
looking
fault.
at January 17th as a possible date after planning.
If
Okay.
something comes up between now and then, not that that my client might want to have it closed for some other reason,
Well,
I can come back
We
and have
can
a
continue
discussion.
to the 20th of December and then see what happens, as opposed to putting a stake in the ground into the 17th and then deal on the 20th to see if we progress out a little further than that.
Better suggestion.
Okay. Questions on the board? Paula Jean?
No questions. I went there Friday and met with Danny. He was there, and I got the grand tour of everything there and the history.
Okay, so
Very
you just,
interesting.
at least 3 hours.
And I was just gonna say, and I didn't go anywhere else that day because the day was shot, but it was
Very proud of what
worthwhile.
he's doing.
Yes, he's very proud of
Yes,
that
and,
project.
it looks like it's gonna be great when it's ready.
Doing a nice job.
Autumn,
No questions, thank you.
Carol,
No questions.
Michael,
No questions, thank you.
Donna.
No questions, thank you.
No questions for me.
Okay. Yes, I spent time with Danny down at Swiss Beach, and it was another, okay. Thank you. My question is, what happened to the big pavilion that was gonna be placed in by the restaurant? There was supposed to be a big, tall pavilion. What happened?
Change of plan.
Well, that's right, it's Danny Warren.
I think there's a smaller, there'll be a smaller pavilion associated with the
All right,
the office, the building for the marina in the bathroom. So there is this portion here, that is a deck, open pavilion.
do you have plans with utility on it? I'm concerned about sewer.
It's, we have a sewer connection shown,
But was it intended to be covered for showers and an office for the marina? I'm trying to think of flow.
the flow. I don't recall including that with the flow, although we had a fairly hefty flow, but I believe it was predominantly due to the seating in the restaurant and the number of meals to be served.
For the restaurant, this is a new building.
Correct.
I think you better check to see if it's going to be impacted by the
I
moratorium.
think one of the things that has come up in the past is if there was an existing sewer connection to the property,
Yeah, I think you had 2 sewer connections to this property at one,
and one of them was.
sorry, folks, I needed a,
It's important, I think it's a good point. They did have an existing sewer connection down here for this that we tied into, and an existing sewer connection up here for the main building. So perhaps the existing sewer connections will allow us that.
I can't,
Immediate
because,
tie-in.
yes, I can remember the restaurant being approved, but I can't remember the additional flow, but there was no other building that was being approved at that time.
Right.
So I think you need to check with Scott down at sewer.
Okay.
So anybody online on this at all?
We do have people online, but nobody has raised their hands.
Okay, so we're going to continue until December 20th with anticipating it might go further depending on the comments from planning.
So moved?
I think, Josh, is that my understanding?
Continue to December 20th, and if we're not ready, let me
We'll
know and
continue-
we'll continue
yep.
up.
Okay.
Okay, so that's
Motion to continue till December 20th?
Second.
I have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
500. Now, we have minutes of November 15th. I had comments. Josh, you get them?
Yes, I did.
So we have a set of minutes from November 15th ready for acceptance.
Move that we accept the November 15th minutes.
Second?
I have a second, motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Now, poor EV that was hit a while ago with conservation people inside, no one can find the key. It's lost, so it can't be used by anybody in town, because the only key that exists is the municipal maintenance, and they're not giving that up. And we're about to turn that car in, and we are missing an EV key. So when the accident occurred, can I ask the people that were in the car, were you towed away or did you drive away?
The vehicle was towed.
The vehicle
Towed.
was towed and the key was left in the cup holder. I personally left it in the cup holder.
So,
Where the key
The
went
body
from when
shop
it
would've
was
needed the
towed
key.
to
Company's got it.
where it is now, it's
right now,
our responsibility.
so it had been towed and the key had been left in the car. So it's up to someone to then track it down from where it was towed to where it was fixed, to where it was returned. Okay, I told
Yeah.
Matt I would ask tonight, and now I've got the answer, and I can share that with him.
Yep.
So, because the car cannot be used, because we can't find the spare key. Do you want to talk about what happened on Onset Bluff? Because I'm really pissed.
Yeah, so, I have some photos from when I went down there. Someone definitely, destroyed the vegetation on that bank. And I don't think this is the first time it's been an issue.
No,
I know historically, you know, there was an effort to revegetate that bank. You know, there are other places in Onset where we've run into this similar issue.
Yes.
Where,
The state made us revegetate that bank because somebody had really gone down and did a job on it.
And
But,
this is in the same area?
no,
as
no, this is off South Boulevard.
Okay, all right.
Houses number 43 and 45 of South Boulevard now has an unobstructed view of Onset Bay.
yeah, I would-
Every hardwood tree in front of those two homes have been cut down or topped, and that debris is landing on the banking. Somewhere down the line, someone's going to complain again about all the skunks, now that they've given them a place to hide in all the debris, and someone's going to say, well, you've got to remove all that brush and twigs and something. Well, guess what? That means that a municipal maintenance have to do it. That's town property they destroyed. That's town resources they'll have to put in there, and that's taxes paying for those salaries. So I am really pissed that somebody chose to take the time to saw and lop off every hardwood tree in that area. 43 and 45 South Boulevard. That's me.
I would say if it extends more, I would say there's probably 4 houses that really gained a view
That's
from what
where
happened. Yep, no, but yeah,
That's
you're
the
right.
big one. Yeah.
End of Second Street on South Boulevard. And, you know, from our position as the Conservation Commission and the administrator, our power to fine anyone is limited to the property owner. Can't really fine the town. So the way I view this is destruction of town property, and, you know, I've talked to the police chief about it. We've written a police statement. We have a report going. You know, there's probably gonna be more vigilance in that area. It's kind of already done, so, you know, I
Did they
think,
do like they did when they cut them down on the bluff across from Hotel Street and involved the state, and the state came in and investigated?
so I originally learned about this from a Facebook post, and I reached out to that person, who gave me some more information. And then when I was actually down there waiting for the police officer, someone walking their dog had some more information for me. So, I'm compiling some more information that may be fruitful in finding out who did this, and we might be able to go after it that way. I think the commission should also issue a letter, and maybe we send it to, you know, anyone who owns a property, you know, within the 100-foot buffer of the bluffs. You know, go right around West Boulevard, South Boulevard, Onset Ave, you know, all the way down to the marina at least.
When was the rough date they were cut? Do we have a date on that?
I think it was last weekend.
Yeah. Those,
When the weather was really nice.
those cuts are awful fresh.
All the branches that are down have leaves on them, so it was, you know, maybe before last weekend or right around last weekend. That's when I saw the post, so that's what I can speak to.
But every hardwood tree, shrub, whatever, gone.
It's,
I mean, this is why I was so upset about the bluff and about them not being able to discover who did this in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
because it was done intentionally and it was done clandestinely so that nobody would notice it.
And these are so small, I don't think a chainsaw was done. I think it was all done with loppers and a handsaw. So it's not as if someone heard the chains like they would have heard the saws like they did off a hotel and down by Point Independence Bridge. But you can see, to me, those were easily done with a good set of loppers or a handsaw, which would not have made the noise. But we really need our citizens to watch out for what is being done on town property. This is a shame.
yeah, and, you know, the Onset Bluffs, I think, are they're a big attraction to people that want to come into Wareham. And I know we're not the tourism committee or anything like that, But, you know, these bluffs have a lot of invasives on them, and, you know, there would be a benefit to coming up with a good revegetation plan and some type of management plan of this area that would allow, you know, maybe some maintenance of a view while keeping these bluffs, you know, as a vital resource to the town. You know, the fear is that we start to put money into this and illegal cutting happens and all our efforts were for naught.
Yeah,
So,
because it's, Carol, the section that was been done on the other side on Onset Ave, every place where there is a bench, everything has been cut
Yeah,
down,
I was
and
gonna say,
everything has
because-
been cut down in front of every one of those
Yeah,
benches.
because Carol said, or it sounded like Carol was about to allude to earlier, was this the same place that, and you said, no, South Boulevard, so this is kind of like an ongoing problem in that whole region.
But this
So
section
he's-
of South Boulevard didn't have high trees.
Okay.
It had been cleared several years ago illegally, but, I'm sorry, I cut you
No,
off.
no, I was,
But now
I
they're
was just
growing
gonna- I was
back, so
gonna
let's
say,
clear
in
them
Onset-
again, because
Yeah.
there was no,
Onset, there seems to be an ongoing issue anywhere in that region.
I
like
mean-
whether it's-
And we
it's
have the
there
same
or-
problem down in Swiss Beach, where people are cutting down the small shrubs, there's trees that keep coming up, and you can see that everything's been topped to keep their view. We just can't catch the person who's destroying town property.
yeah, I mean, you know, one of the suggestions, and correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, a revegetation of this open resource, might be a CPC allowable funded project,
well, I know
maybe.
there's
but-
state grants to do that,
There are, and I'm
but the
meeting with
town has to
someone.
match it.
I'm meeting with someone this week where I'm gonna have that discussion with them as well. You know, what kind of funding is out there for this? But with a history of the clearing, you know, who wants to throw money at something that,
It's going to be
I mean, that's why we need to be able to hit a lot harder when we do catch someone doing something like this and make an example out of them.
Yeah.
This can't keep happening.
Yep.
I mean, for God's sakes, we are in 2020, going into 2024. There are game cameras, ring cameras, doorbell cameras. I have 4 cars, I have 4 cameras in my cars.
yeah, I
There's no
think,
reason they can't catch these people.
I think someone knows exactly who did it.
Oh, I'm sure the person who paid them knows exactly who did it. The person that did it knows they did it, and they knew it's illegal. And we sit here going, we can't catch them. That's bullshit.
Yep.
So,
The cameras in my cars, Walter Correa, before he became chief, was the tech guy at the police station. And somebody almost hit Dave. I mean, when he was cleaning the roads, came right by him at 50 miles an hour and missed him by inches, deliberately. He looked at the footage on my camera. I paid $15 for this camera at Ocean State Job Lot. It's better than the ones in the police cruisers they spend hundreds on. You can buy cheap cameras that are HD and put them up everywhere. It's town property.
yeah, and I think the police have put, game cameras out here before with, you know,
Well, the Department of
once it's
Natural
done, it's
Resources
done.
has.
Yeah, yeah.
And it does, I mean, it takes a lot of batteries when you're running game cameras. And you're trying to catch, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But there's also the program that nobody seems to know about, Shangri-La knows about it. You can register your cameras with the police department. You just sign a form, and if something happens, they can come and you give them the footage off your camera. And that way, if there's a crime that happens down the road and they see cars coming and going by your house, they know who's coming and going.
Sure.
And I don't think the whole town knows about this kind of a program. But we've got to do something that's our job. We are the Conservation Commission. This is on the bluffs, this is on the ocean fronts, all within the 100-foot no activity zone. And we need to really ramp up what we're charging people when they do stuff like this. A $200 fine doesn't cut it.
Yep, and that's something we can definitely address when we rewrite our bylaw. On the works, we're gonna address that after the new year. So, you know, there's definitely discussions to be had there, when we move forward with the bylaw rewrite, but.
Did you want to cover the Pinehurst Beach?
Yes, I do. I didn't bring the packets with me, they're in my office. I can email them out. But basically, I'll give a quick overview of kind of, so this is, the Pinehurst Beach is the jetty project that we approved at the end of, I think it's Beach Street, but it's in the Pinehurst community. The jetty, I think for the most part, was favorable to the community until the association wasn't as forthcoming with maybe, the exact approach of what they were doing or how they were doing it. So I think there's an internal conflict between the association there and some of the residents. And I think, when they were performing the work of the jetty, they did some stuff that violated, the actual order that we had given them. I've addressed those problems with the applicants, and they are coming in with an amended order of conditions to rectify those issues. So we received a letter from one of the abutters who, wasn't in favor of what had happened throughout the course of the proposed work. And when they come forward with the amended order of conditions, I'm sure we'll get to hear her side of the story. But like I said, I have a letter that I will email out tomorrow for everyone to look at. That has, I think it has some good photos of, what's happened at the Pinehurst Beach, so.
When are they coming back in?
I'm just waiting for the amended order of conditions now from the Pinehurst Beach Association. They had to, so they moved quite a bit of sand down there, which they are going to have to replenish, and they are currently working on the sieve analysis of the sand, so they can tell us where it's going to be sourced from and exactly where it's going to be placed, because they're working on getting the calculations of how much sand was initially moved from the area. That area of the beach is interesting. Actually, let me see if I have some photos of it. That area of the beach is interesting because there's an old outfall that went from the street down into the water that has since, the outfall has broken, and where it outfalls now is pretty, it's covered by a lot of sand, but there's actually a small hole, there's a hole at the end of the pipe where it's now broken. So, there's some debate on who should actually be responsible for fixing it, where it runs through, the town-owned street, then it runs through a private residence, and then it runs onto the association land. So they're kind of battling a few things there. Okay, so let's see if I can get these to play. So this is a movie that was supplied to me by, any recommendation here, John? This one? Okay, so this video was supplied during a heavy rainstorm, and what he is trying to identify here is where this water is actually going because of that storm drain that is no longer adequately working. So let me just try to gain my bearings on where we are. So this is the storm drain, and if you were to look at the top of the screen, that is the Pinehurst Beach Association property. And then further down is the driveway where that car is parked is the...
Do you see that kiosk? That's the Beach Association, and where that car is, the town-owned road that goes to the beach.
Correct. So that overflows now, and it is overflowing down this road, and that is where the jetty was constructed. The metal fencing that is there in this photo is no longer there. That was part of the project to get it removed. The town has since come in, cleaned up the staircase and the footings below that fence.
But you can see the water running.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this has been remediated with the work of the jetty and what the town has done with, you know, the banking, right, I'd say land side of this concrete wall. But that's one of the, this was one of the big issues that they wanted to address with the jetty and the reconstruction of that wall. And then I think this video better shows where that old outlet pipe has since broken. Is it gonna play? Oh, it is playing. Okay, so rewind it to the beginning. But so here's the outlet pipe. This pipe is attached to the storm drain that we saw in the first video. And normally this is a big hole with sand coming across. This was a high tide, I'll say probably a king tide, where the water came all the way up and it actually created an outlet to go into the salt marsh there. So, you know, this is the type of issues that they're having down there. And if I can pause the video, a lot of the sand in this area was moved for the construction of the jetty, which is something that the commission didn't approve, which is why they're coming with the amended order to, you know, refill this area that was moved. The Pinehurst Beach Association owns a strip of land, I would say, between a lot of the houses and the water, and that's what they've maintained in some regard throughout the years. There are some instances where they actually own the seawall and the property owner doesn't, and they've actually produced easements to allow homeowners to do work on the seawalls. But yeah, that's not really something we're talking about now. But, it's just that seems to be an issue that we have with a lot of the associations where, you know, you need some type of approval from the association to do any type of work because of where those property lines fall. But like I said, I will share that letter with you guys. I'll send it in an email tomorrow. Does that seem to cover everything?
I think so.
Okay. Administrative approvals, I did one for 2 Larch Street. It was the removal of a dying oak tree in between 2 houses. And I wanted to ask the commission to think about how we handle illegal docks. So the Chapter 91 regs say that if a dock is not maintained or is in severe disrepair for 5 years, that their license is no longer valid. You know, there's definitely docks around town that is, you know, the case. And I don't think the commission, I mean, there's one dock that we've recently required the removal of that was solely within a salt marsh and had no access to the water pretty much at that point. But I think it's maybe something that we should look at for all docks. And I'm not saying that we immediately start, you know, going out and trying to find illegal docks, because I could probably pay all of you full-time to do that and we wouldn't make a dent. But, you know, if I'm at a property and I see something, maybe it's worth taking on those in small numbers. You know, maybe one, we ask them to produce if it was ever licensed, or if it wasn't, we require them to come license it if they want to keep it. But
Didn't we just have one at the last hearing?
Yep.
That we're out there and there was a dock and we said, oh, not 91, take it out.
Yep, so there, you know, we definitely, I think since I've been here, we've had 4. I think we've had 4, and I think one of them was actually licensed. So, you know, not a good start when you're looking at 4 that we've done and you're at 25%. But I'm thinking maybe we should think about that, and when we come to rewrite the bylaws, maybe we put something in there. But we can enforce them now as well. It's not something that is solely contested to our bylaw. It's something that we can do now, so.
Okay. Anything else from anybody?
I think Paulina had her hand up.
Oh, I just had a question. Are you talking about docks that are like with pilings out into the water, or are you talking about those 10 by 10, 12 by 12 floating docks that are dragged up and that sit on the beach and maybe don't get put in every year and they lay around. I was just curious.
So, I mean, our bylaw states that the storage of docks shouldn't be within the resource area or a 30-foot no activity to begin with. So even the floating docks that, you know, we don't have any say on whether they're permitted or not.
Yeah, I just wondered.
You know, that's more of the harbor master. He looks at navigation issues and stuff like that. But just some of the floating docks, they still shouldn't be stored within our resource areas, and we can make a determination about that. Some people do have seasonal docks where maybe you have 40 or 50 feet that goes out into the water with some type of float at the end where they leave the pilings in. Again, we have issues with people storing them within the resource area right on the beach.
Okay. But they're all considered, you're calling them all docks, even though the floating raft kind as well as the fixed
Yeah,
kind?
docks, rafts, and,
Okay,
yeah, we
okay.
could,
I didn't know by definition which you meant.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we can basically say anything stored within the resource area is harmful to the
Oh, yeah.
resource area, and it shouldn't be stored there. And we already have language in our bylaw
Right.
that dictates that anyway. But, again, I don't think it's something that we need to start, you know, driving down every street going, is your
No,
dock
Bigger,
permitted, is your
bigger
dock
fish to
permitted?
fry.
But, you know, as I'm out and I see them, maybe it's, if I feel that it's a net negative to the resource area, then maybe we start enforcing those. There's nothing that says we have to grandfather a dock because it's been there since the 60s. You know, the state came through and said, if you want to permit your dock, we'll give you it was like a 30-year intermittent license that basically
wow.
said, hey, you have 30 years to actually permit it. And I think the permits now are 99 years, or
Oh,
it's
nothing.
something crazy.
Yeah.
So, people want to keep their docks, I think, you know, especially when they get into bad disrepair, you start to worry about, you know, them breaking off,
Get loose.
ending up in a resource area, ending up into someone else's property, you know,
Into the
list of
canal.
things go on and on, so. If you guys want to think about that, we can definitely discuss it at the next meeting and go from there, but.
Thank you. Anything else? Somebody?
Motion to adjourn?
I have a
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. We are adjourned at 8:26. Thank you, everybody.